Okay. All right, y'all. Thank you everyone for being here. Today's topic with the 5-year strategic roadmap is preparing communities for resilience and responsiveness. Today you will hear from Kristen Walker Collins, Chief Executive Officer, Brenna Wallhauser, Chief Philanthropy Officer, Kathy King Allen, Community Engagement Director, and Mindy Beth Miller with Housing Development Alliance. So before we get into the true presentation, just have some objectives here that we hope folks that are joining will walk away with. So we hope that you all get first a better understanding of this sixth area of focus in the 5-year strategic roadmap. We hope that you all will gain insight into how community partners are succeeding in this area, and that will really be the focus of this presentation. And then lastly, we hope that you consider how your work on affiliate boards or in community can further advance this area of focus around resilience and preparedness. And with that, I will hand it over to Kathy to talk more about the 5-year strategic roadmap and, in particular, preparing communities for resilience and responsiveness.
Uh, Thanks, Colby. Just wanted to mention take a few minutes to discuss our strategic roadmap. At the foundation, we've created a 5-year strategic roadmap, and our affiliate community foundations, they're a part of each of those strategies. We have several drivers associated with each goal, um, but each goal also has a long-term impact on our communities, once that goal is reached. So today's topic, Colby already mentioned that earlier, is preparing communities for resilience and responsiveness. And on our roadmap, we didn't even have this indicator. I just wanted to kind of mention this about 5 years ago. It wasn't until we had several disasters in our footprint area that we added this to our roadmap, because it just wasn't part of our strategy, even though, I guess it probably should have been. But we want our communities to all be safe and beautiful and friendly and resilient and a healthy place. And we want it full of opportunities for all of our counties and our region. And we want our local folks and our people outside the region as well to be interested and have the confidence about investing in our area and investing in Appalachia. And we want the communities to be resilient and responsiveness when disasters happen. So that's really important to the foundation, and it's important to our affiliates as well. So we want to make sure, we're also promoting that positive regional image inside and outside the region. We don't want to just be on the news, when we have a disaster. And with those 5-year goals, we do have the drivers. We have those are really our partners that we are associated with for this. This is number 6 driver, but that doesn't mean that it's less important by any means. But then, so some of the indicators of success for this indicator is that we want to be responsive to the disasters quicker, and I think we have seen that in 2025. I know in all the counties that I've been in, they said that the flooding that recently occurred, that they have seen the response time much shorter. So I think that's great. We had a lot of partners already in our network. We were able to reach out to those partners to see case management start quicker, to see funding start quicker. We just had a lot of stuff that lined up from our 2022 and 2021 flooding. We want to make sure that civic participation is at its highest in the county level. We want to make sure that all our food pantries are stocked with food and water and the things that they need. We want to make sure that the foundation is seen as a local trusted partner for those monetary donations that come in, from outside and inside, and also that we're able to connect people where they need to go and provide resources if people want to know where to go and find out where the FEMA office is. You know, they know if they call the foundation that we're going to connect those people. And then, of course, the long-term impact is that there's shorter time between disaster and recovery. Disasters are less deadly, and people feel more prepared and hopeful when the disaster happens, because we do know it's just a matter of time before we have another disaster in some of our counties. So anyway, I think you want to go ahead and switch those. I think I already covered that
Yep.
last one. So that's just a little bit more of those indicators that are listed on the main overarching page. You can go on to the next one, Colby. I think we're ready, and then we just want to make sure, you know, that people are more prepared. So
I
I
think
think
talked
everyone.
about this as well.
Yes, now those are community partners, and that list is really ever changing. Some of the, you know, we probably added a few additional ones since we came up with the sixth indicator, and I mean, the long-term recovery groups are really vital in our counties, and we are the fiscal sponsor for three of those long-term recovery groups, and then other ones have other partners in their communities that are their fiscal sponsor for the long-term recovery groups. But those are the ones that are kind of coordinating the efforts in each county as the flooding disaster occurs. I know later on we're going to talk about a couple other disasters, but those are specifically geared toward the flooding that's been happening in our counties, and they've been vital to see those counties recover.
Yep.
And of course, mental health access, that is always important. We always want to make sure we can provide that resource to the individuals in the communities as well. So, and I think now we're going to hand it off to Kristen. Is that the next one?
Yep, that's right.
Okay. Kristen Walker Collins. She's our Chief Executive Officer at the foundation. Before starting her career in philanthropy, Kristen worked as an attorney specializing in family law and municipal law at the firm of Holland and Collins. She's an active member in the community, includes serving as vice president of the Hazard Perry County Chamber, serves on numerous boards and committees. She's the founder, which is really important, and president of the Hazard Rotary Club Foundation, which operates the Dolly Parton Imagination Library. I know that is near and dear to her heart. It's providing free books to children, I think, under the age of 5, or she might more that. But anyway, it's a great program. I think a lot of the counties, a lot of your affiliate counties are partnering with the Dolly Parton Imagination Library, but she was ahead of the game getting that started in Perry County. And so she's also serving on the Appalachian Funders Network Steering Committee, and she's a member of the Appalachian Cradle to Career Coalition, the Dow Kentucky Commission, and trustee Philanthropy Southeast.
We can probably stop there.
I thought, okay, what I was trying to do an overview. Lots of travel, and Jonathan's her husband, Hazard, and Piper and Palmer are her kids. Now,
there you go.
Kristen.
Yeah. Thank you, Kathy. Thank you, everyone, for attending today or for watching this in the future. I've been with the foundation for over 10 years now, and have seen us respond to disasters of all types in our communities and across our region, and have seen our role at the foundation increase in what we do and how we respond to disasters. And one of the ways that we have evolved is we have kind of become that automatic, trusted, transparent resource for donors and funders to channel money into the region. And we really pride ourselves on that we are a trusted partner. We are transparent about what grants send out, what money comes in, and we give updates. Our website is continually updated with what grants have gone out. I think it's going to be updated again today with most recent numbers. We've just sent out 12 farm grants and did a third round of funding to individuals from the February flood. And so we're really open about how we respond to disasters, as well as how we steward um, resources that come into the region. Another role that we have increased our visibility and uh, participation in is becoming a regional thought partner and advocate. One of the big things in the July 2022 flood was that we did not want our region to be forgotten because of the 24-hour news cycle, and things, quickly get forgotten. So our role was to continue to put out the needs of our region, to be in the news, to keep it current and in the minds of people across the nation. So making sure that we are included in national publications and that we give updates, and we still, have need either in the region. And even today, I mean, we still have need from the July 2022 flooding, and still talking about that. We've seen some wonderful articles about our partners at Housing Development Alliance and the work that they're doing. Same thing with the foundation and how we respond. But one of our roles is to really elevate the needs and keep the attention in the news cycle, and really advocate for our region. As I mentioned before, the stewardship of crisis funds. We've really seemed to have found a model that works really well for our region. It doesn't work for everybody across the nation, but we know our communities really well, so we know what people need. And so we've started this in 2012 with tornadoes, but really have honed in on this since 2021 with flooding around the Gorge region. Direct assistance to families, people that need that immediate money to get them somewhere safe, to either get them in housing or back in their home, whatever that might look like. But just to make sure that they're safe and that they know that people are thinking about them. And then one that people might not think of in the region as much, but supporting farms. We do have an agricultural society. But it's not large scale farming. It's a lot of those family farms. It's a lot of the tradition in food works that we have, canning for the winter. I know in July 2022 flood that I'm going to be referencing a lot, that a lot of people lost crops and food that they were going to put up for the winter. And so we were able to partner with groups to bring in fresh produce that was safe so that they could continue providing for their family over the winter's months. And then businesses. We know that small businesses are the backbone of our communities. They show up all the time for our community. And so this is an opportunity for us to show up for them and support them. A lot of businesses, especially in this February flooding, have been impacted. And so trying to at least get them so that they can reopen to fix, things that have been issued. We can't necessarily replace all of their lost profits or product or whatever that might look like. But what we can do is help them get on their way. I know a lot of our businesses, and we do a lot of focus on entrepreneurship and small business development as a whole. And so this is just another way for us to assist them. And then also be a connector to state and national resources. We participate in a lot of networks. Kathy mentioned some of those: the Appalachia Funders Network, Philanthropy Southeast, Grant Makers of Kentucky. And through those relationships that we have built over many, many years, we were able to tap into a lot of philanthropic dollars to come directly to the region for us to put out to those families, farms, businesses, and nonprofits that are doing important work here in the region. I can, name a couple of examples. I know, one of our really great colleagues, the Geens Foundation out of Louisville, they don't fund in Eastern Kentucky. They fund in Louisville and a parish in New Orleans. And when the 22 flood happened, they immediately went to their board of directors and asked for a variance so that they could make a grant to the foundation for us to put out. And I will forever be grateful to them for considering us in our time of need. And we've seen that happen time and time again with people with national funders, that because of a relationship that we've had in the past, that they feel safe sending resources through us to the region. And then the other role that we play, last but certainly not least, is the support for our local affiliates that are on the front lines, that are in these communities that have been impacted. We have staff that live all over the region now, and I'm really proud and happy about that. And so we can hear, what's going on across the region, but what we really have are our affiliate members who live in, 20 counties across the region to tell us what's going on, what they need. One of the things that we haven't gotten to do yet from the February flood, but as some of the grant making is finishing up, we are going to make grants to the affiliates for them to grant out in their communities for anything that we may have missed, in our initial rounds of funding. So making sure that our affiliates know that they're supported, that they know what's best for their community. I say this all the time, but you all know what is best because you are there. So making sure that we can provide resources for you all to put out there, and you all be the lead in that. Next slide, please. So what happens after a disaster? So immediately, one of the things, and unfortunately, we've had this happen several times, making sure that our team is safe, right? That our staff people are all accounted for and are doing okay. And then we move fast. We really activate that Appalachian Crisis Aid Fund immediately. Colby, the slides have gone away.
Yeah, bear with me. I'll get those back up.
Okay, you're fine. I just wanted to let you know. And so we immediately activate the Appalachian Crisis Aid Fund and then start sharing it through those networks I mentioned. I know that in February, when the flooding had happened, we immediately opened it, and my husband went out to muck out houses. I was home with our children, and I was just sending email after email after email to all of my network that the foundation has to let people know that it was open, and this has happened again, and we are going to be responding. And then also targeted communications, like we said, through the public, board, staff, and our affiliates. And I'll talk a little bit about this in a few minutes, but our communications team has put together a crisis communications plan for when disasters happen and what we need to do. As anyone knows, when unplanned things happen, you kind of forget what you're supposed to do. And so fortunately for us, we have a plan in place, and so we know what the next step is, even if our brains haven't caught up to it. We know that it exists, and that this is the next step. And then rapid outreach to funders and partners, and then, as I said, the communications materials are ready to deploy. So in order for us to be able to make grants, we have to have money to do that. Currently, we don't have an already funded resiliency fund. What we have to do is fundraise for every individual disaster. More on that in a minute. But making sure that we have money to put out, we have to get money in. And so that is why we focus our communications on letting our funders and the public know that this has happened. The other thing is to share information. I know in the 22 flood, one of the biggest things, misconceptions, was that you could kill mold with bleach. And our partners at Housing Development Alliance very quickly said, no, you cannot. You have to use, and our partners at SBP as well, you have to use some sort of special material, and I am going to mess up the word, so I don't want to say it, like concrobium or something like that to actually kill the mold. And SBP provided wonderful materials. HDA put out wonderful materials. And so we started sharing those materials as well. Whenever we sent out a check to someone in 22, we had a flyer in there about you cannot kill mold with bleach. You have to use this. When people would call our office on how can I help, how can I help, I don't necessarily want to send money. Okay, buy concrobium, send it to this address. And so we were a donation place. We sent it to HGA. We made sure our building partners had that. We made sure that the Disaster Recovery Center had that and that people knew that. So really disseminating information was also one of our major roles, was making sure that people knew that ways to be safe. And then other places to apply for funding. The American Red Cross had funding available. FEMA had funding available. Same thing, I know people had lost power for several days, and so AEP had a program available to recoup lost grocery money. So making sure that people knew who to contact, how to access additional funding. And so that is part of our work as well, as to making sure that information gets out there. Next slide, please. So as disasters have been happening, we've kind of honed in on the three phases of how disaster work happens. And it's that relief, recovery, and then resiliency work. And this is the way that I frame it, and then I talk about it. I know that there are disaster recovery experts that have much better phrasing and phases that they talk about. But really, for us at the foundation, that relief, right? It's that immediately flexible dollars going out the door to people to make sure that they are in a safe place. It's the partners that make sure people are in a hotel because they've lost, or they are put in a trailer or anything like that. At immediate safety, making sure people are safe in the immediate aftermath. And then we move into recovery. And this is the rebuilding of homes and farms and local economies, cleaning up. It's after making sure people are safe. It's that cleaning up. It's the making sure we get money to our nonprofit partners who have, I don't know, for example, gone and mucked out houses. Well, they don't get paid to muck out houses, and they still have employees to pay. So making sure that they have money to operate as the recovery work happens. And then last but not least, and we're very much in, I think, some sort of all three of these right now in Eastern Kentucky, but resiliency. And those are those long-term investments, that forward thinking that takes money to do studies on, what does it look like for a community to become resilient against natural disasters or man-made disasters or whatever it might be. One of the, I think, best highlights of this is the foundation's work in the creation of Chestnut Ridge, 56 house single family home neighborhood in Knott County, working with our partners at Housing Development Alliance, Homes Inc., Appalachian Service Project, and Samaritan's Purse. The foundation's not out there building houses, okay? That is not what we do. What we do is bring in resources. And so we were fortunate enough to have a donor donate 22 acres of land to the foundation, along with development dollars. And what most people don't see is that, okay, wait, we're going to build a neighborhood. Well, what do neighborhoods need? They need water, sewer, power, sidewalks, roads, mailboxes, 911 addresses, all of these things that just happen to appear. It takes work to get there. And so we at the foundation, receive this land and this money, and that's wonderful. Where do we go from there? And so hiring an engineer and to plan out the neighborhood, finding the housing developers that we just mentioned that are already our partners in work, and then making sure that there's water and sewer and electric and internet and all of the things that people need to be safe and secure in a home. And so Chestnut Ridge, we've started work out there. I know Mindy Beth is so excited. The infrastructure is now in place, and our builders have started digging out foundations and pouring footers and all of the things. We are going to have a ribbon cutting soon, date to be determined, working on schedules to get that figured out. But we are so excited about that. And that takes a lot of time. I mean, we're 2.5 years out, almost 3 years out from the 22 flood. And this is where we are. And so we're seeing a lot of these other neighborhoods, and the state is referring to them as higher ground because it's moving people out of the floodplain. That is resiliency work, right? We are getting people out of the floodplain so that they are safe. And so that is resiliency work. There are other things that are resiliency, getting community hubs set up in communities that run off solar or have a backup solar system so that when the power grid does go down or we lose power, that we still have solar, a solar battery that's back up in a community center so that people can go there. So there are other ways of looking at resiliency and investing in that. And so that's, the 3 phases that we concentrate on is, the immediate relief, the recovery work, and then that resiliency work, thinking long term. Next slide. This is just a quick slide on some of the disaster relief and recovery work that we've done and how we have approached that. COVID-19, 5 years ago, and like a month and a day or something since that started. And we put out over $1 million in COVID relief money, and that went to the Southeast Kentucky Healthy Downtowns Initiative, grants to affiliates for them to address needs in their communities, family farms again, because farmers markets were shut down and people couldn't sell produce. And so making sure that they had income, and then supporting small businesses and saving jobs. Those were a lot of our priorities and what we did. So we're really proud about that work. And then earlier I mentioned the 21 flood that happened in the gorge. Put out a little over $1.3 million. And that's really where we honed in on the direct assistance to individuals and families, farms, businesses, and nonprofits. And you can see here that 1,300 individuals received, or families received grants, and that business grants were awarded. And it is kind of it is harder sometimes to give out money than one thinks. Because we do have to, make sure that we aren't being frauded by people, because unfortunately that exists. So verifying that we're not seeing duplicate applications from individuals, that it is per household, and we're not sending multiple checks to the same family, just so that our resources can go farther and help more people. Same thing with our businesses, making sure that they were open at the time of the flood, or that they plan to reopen, or whatever it is, that to make sure that the dollars that are trusted to the foundation are actually spent as they should be. Next slide, please. And then this is the 22 flood relief, and this number is actually still growing. Because of the Chestnut Ridge neighborhood I mentioned earlier. And I want to talk about kind of that step in between the 21 flood in the gorge and the 22 flood in July of 22. And in between those 2 floods, we did an internal staff analysis on what our response was and how we responded to that disaster, and made a plan moving forward when another disaster happened. And so when the July 22 disaster happened, we had a plan in place. We had, within 24 hours, we're doing A, B, and C. Within 48 hours, we're doing A, B, and C. Within 72 hours, within 1 week, these are the things that we're going to be doing. And we stuck to that. One of the things that we did really well was, what a minimum threshold is for a disaster. When do we step in and respond? What are our communications? Who do we contact? All of that was done really well. What we did not do was, what does our internal capacity look like? Taking that into consideration on how we respond. Now, I will say, everyone here at the time that was on staff did wonderful work. And I'm so proud of everything that we did. But what we did was burned out our staff because of it was constant. And so we did flood relief work for a minimum of 9 months and kind of put everything off to the side. All of our affiliates remember this because we were all living it together. But we did wonderful work. We've put out, nearly $14 million. We're putting out, building a neighborhood. Our affiliates in long-term recovery groups did the work for much longer than we did, still making grants to people to get people back in homes, contributing to the family resource centers and the students that were impacted in the schools and making sure our small businesses were supported. So what we did after the 22 flood, well into 2023, was we did another internal debrief. And we said this first plan was great for the first week. And then we kind of needed to expand on how we respond in big disasters and what that looks like. So we started looking at third-party check processors. We processed over 8,000 individual checks in-house. That takes a lot of time and effort. And so we identified a third-party check processor to make it easier for us to get the work done quickly. We can, vet people and, get it in a spreadsheet and send it off. And we don't have to stuff checks and lick envelopes and stamps and all of that to get money directly to people. What we can do is then give it to somebody else and get it out the door. So we did that. Really happy that we had put those processes in place by the time that the February 25 flood happened. The other thing that we did, we started switching to ACH, direct deposit payments. So a lot of our businesses and farms are able to be paid immediately after they are approved for a grant. So you're not waiting for a check, or in cases in the July 22 flood, a lot of people didn't even have post boxes, mailboxes, so they couldn't get mail even. So this helps alleviate some of those issues. So we're always improving and looking at what systems that we use to better respond to crises and our communities. Next slide. This next slide is just a map from 22. You all remember this. We can just kind of skip over that. And then this slide, I kind of talked about this, what we did. And so since the 22 flood, we have protocols and communications around plans around communications, crisis fund deployment, community coordination, and then we continually update based on real world events and best practices. We participate in a lot of disaster webinars and learning from our friends such as Sarah Hambrick on best ways to respond to things and what is happening in the world. So those are the ways that we have been responding as the foundation and evolving in our role of disaster recovery work. Next slide. I promise I'm almost done. I just have a couple more here. So I mentioned earlier that as disasters happen, that we have to fundraise on each individual disaster and then deploy money. And what we are seeing in the realm of disaster response is that we need to be proactive, not just reactive. So creating a fund that is already in existence and fundraising for that before the storms happen, so that we have money ready to deploy immediately, and so that our affiliates can participate in how that money is deployed, what that looks like. So do some forward thinking on investments into the region before the time of crisis. And so working on that plan internally. If anyone has questions about it, feel free to reach out. But this is really, I think, the way that we need to go, because we are seeing disaster after disaster. I've read an article recently that said that Western Kentucky is turning into the new tornado alley. So it's happening to the west of us, to our friends and family out there. And so what does that mean for Eastern Kentucky, right? We've had 3 floods in 4 years. And so what are we doing to be proactive to help our communities? And then last but not least, success. What does success look like for our thank you, for our work. And it's quicker recovery times, fewer lives lost because we have plans in place. We're getting people out of floodplain and different things like that. But then we're also seeing more hopeful and prepared communities. I'm seeing a lot of people that are in a lot of despair right now because, like I said, third flood in 4 years, it gets really hard on people, especially those that are business owners or have lost their home and are having to rebuild everything. And these things seem to keep happening. So what we want to see are hopeful, prepared communities that are ready for the next thing, but are not living in fear, that are excited about building back neighborhoods, building back businesses, and having thriving communities. And obviously having the Foundation for Appalachian Kentucky seen as a leader and partner in disaster resiliency work, not just locally, but regionally and nationally as well. There are a lot of things that others can learn from our experiences and the work that we do and how we approach things. And so I would really love to see the foundation positioned as one of those thought partners. So that is my part of the presentation. I'm now going to hand it off, and I know I've mentioned several times our partnership with the Housing Development Alliance, but we have Mindy Beth Miller here today with us, and she is going to talk about the Housing Can't Wait campaign and disaster resiliency. And take it away, Mindy.
All right. So, I think the best thing that I can do is really talk about this initiative as just, one of those partners that's there and our experience with it. I think Kristen really laid the groundwork really well here to kind of help give a background to disaster resiliency and just how important that is out here now in light of the fact that more and more of these things are happening. If you go on to that next slide, it just kind of gives you a refresher about what happened in 22, which we all know. But the way that it affected the Housing Development Alliance is that we knew we had lost around 500 homes just in the counties that we serve, the three that were hardest hit. We had 500 homes destroyed and at least 4,600 homes damaged. So when this happened, it was truly overwhelming. I mean, we knew it was bad, but once we really got out there and started looking at things, we just saw just the terrible impact that it was going to have for years on this area. So when something like that happens, as an affordable housing developer, you're kind of used to just operating in your own bubble in a way. But we knew that this was so much bigger. Again, it affected 13 counties in Eastern Kentucky. And we knew that we were going to need a support structure of some kind. We just didn't fully understand what that was going to be or what we needed from that. But that's why we're so lucky to have the Foundation for Appalachian Kentucky. I really don't know how communities in other places are able to address major disasters without a community foundation of some kind. But this was crucial for us because it brought all of these local nonprofits together. If you go on to the next slide, we discovered, of course, just in all of our research and going out and talking to folks on the ground, that the number one need of housing survivors or flood survivors was housing. And we tried to get that information out there. But again, we're serving 4 counties in East Kentucky, and that's really where our platform was centered. We do talk to our state leadership and things like that, but what we really needed was a bigger mouthpiece, was somebody that could actually get out there and beat that drum harder. But again, if you go on to the next slide, Colby, we were talking to state leadership, but when they got together, I think if I remember correctly, I think it was like in September, they had their special session or somewhere along in there, and came up with a flood relief package that had $0 in it for housing. which just blew our minds at the time. So we were like, okay, what can we do to really get them to understand the dire need out here? The foundation is so well connected between the foundation and FAHI that they could actually get that word out there more powerfully, more clearly, to try to help us get the funding, the resources, the investment that we needed out here to do what needed to be done. And they were telling us at the time that maybe we didn't know what we needed. So if you go to that next slide, it's got a great quote from Jerry. But the thing was, we do know, because we're here every day in our community and we see what's happening on the ground. And we've been here for decades. So we do know what's needed. We do know how to do it. We don't need all of these outside organizations to come in, even though we're grateful for the help. But we don't need all of these outside organizations to come in and do it for us. So again, we just needed that support. And I think that with the Housing Can't Wait initiative being born at that time, we're telling the state, housing can't wait until you guys get back together in January. And it finally dawned on you that, yeah, we need to be helping these folks build homes, repair homes, do all of the things that needed to be done right here in East Kentucky. And if you go on to the next slide, we had proven before many times that we could do the amount of building that needed to be done and the time frame that it needed to be done. We'd built Gurney's Bend and had finished it like right before the flood happened. This is a 15-home affordable housing subdivision within the city limits of Hazard, the first one that they've had in about 50 years. But we could build homes in one location, multiple homes, and we've done that there. We built over 100 homes up around the Wendell H. Ford Airport, and there were different places where we'd done this kind of work. So I think that really helped too, to get the state to understand that, we have talented people here who know how to get these things done. Again, we just need that help. And so the foundation, I think, became like the fulcrum on which everything kind of turned. And between them and FAHI trying to get all of the resources in here that we needed, because disaster recovery is expensive. And as a medium-sized nonprofit, we weren't getting direct funding for disaster recovery or flood relief. So, it was going to be crucial to us to have some way of getting those dollars in here. And the way that happened was through the foundation. Go on to the next slide. And so acknowledging, like Kristen mentioned earlier, that we need to be proactive and not reactive. We know that these disasters are going to continue to happen. We don't know how often they're going to happen, but we know they're becoming more frequent. So the solution that we all saw, especially working with all those partners, was to get folks out of harm's way. And the good thing about this initiative too is that, sometimes you feel alone in your work, but we knew that we had all of those other partner agencies out there. SBP was in here helping tremendously, giving their expertise. So you've got all of these folks working together to try to get this one thing done. But what we wanted to do was bring that local mindset to things to help folks understand that, recovery is not going to look the same in Eastern Kentucky as it's going to look in Central Kentucky and other places. Some folks simply do not want to live in a subdivision. They don't want a lot of neighbors. They want to live close to where they grew up. If they're from the Sassafras community, they want to stay in the Sassafras community. So we had to come up with things that we felt would work for our particular community. So in addition to those subdivisions, we were able to get the funding that we needed and resources that we needed to have the opportunity to build some scattered sites, to build on scattered sites. So that what that means is away from those high ground communities, but so it might be in a holler, but we found land that is up out of the flood zone and is going to get those people to safety so that when this happens again, they're not going to be destroyed, so the people who want to live here can live here. And the same thing, for folks who had family land. There's people in Eastern Kentucky, like there are probably in many places in the country, that have had land in their family since the 1700s, and they don't want to let it go. But one key thing from 2022 to now is that after 2022, when we were telling folks, we got to get you out of harm's way, I don't think that people in Eastern Kentucky completely bought into that and understood it until this all happened again with these latest floods. And so we've heard more and more folks saying, I've got to get my family to higher ground. So to me, that's an important message that had to get out there. And from all of us working together, I think that's helped give that information to folks and help them see that you can live in Eastern Kentucky and there are solutions and there are people here who can help you. Now going to the next slide, you can kind of see our impact so far. This is just for HDA. So this is with all of the help that we've received from all kinds of folks, all kinds of funding sources. We've actually helped around 145 flood survivors so far with either getting a new home or getting a home rehabbed. And I'll note that we only rehab homes that are out of the floodplain because, again, we don't want to fix up a home just to have it damaged again and put that flood survivor in greater danger. We have a lot of projects that are still pending that we're working on. But again, we feel like this is before we're actually getting up to those high ground sites where we think things will go even quicker. So we feel well positioned and well supported to continue with disaster recovery. As Kristen mentioned, we're heading into like the fourth year of this, 3 years past the flood. And, we've estimated that it'll take 5 to 7 years for recovery to actually be truly seen and felt, experienced in the way that we want it to in East Kentucky. Go on to the next slide. And this tells you just a big rundown of the cost and why we've needed this support structure in place, why we're so thankful for it. So the Ohio River Valley Institute, there's a link there that you guys can follow to read that report. $1.4 billion is the price tag, and there's still a $600 million funding gap. And that's just, for the 22 flood. That's not taking into account 21. That's not taking into account 25. So, it's expensive and it's time consuming, but we're going to keep pressing on. So going to the next slide, because I know we're running close on time. And again, going forward, what we're looking for is a lasting recovery, not just something that is just for the time being. We want to continue to support our people here. We are already framing homes at Skyview. We're framing the first 3 right now, and that's one of the state's high ground sites. And we would not have that opportunity without the support we've received from the foundation, Fahi, Team Kentucky. Chestnut Ridge, we've gotten all of our footers, 17 footers, not 17 footers. We've got 17 pieces of land that have been developed enough to where we can put the footers in. And again, we're going to continue to build on scattered sites and on different places where we can get people to safety going forward. We think that's going to be crucial. The last slide just kind of gives you a summary of things. And again, we just feel so thankful for the support we've received and to be a part of the Housing Can't Wait initiative. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mindy Beth. Really important work that may not be the main piece of work that any of the organizations on this call do, but you all are called to do that work in times of need, and it's so appreciated. And this just demonstrates the power and strength of networks and key partners in the region working together to address these really difficult issues related to natural disasters. So thank you for sharing more about that. And up next, we are running close to 11 o'clock. If folks want to stay on, you're more than welcome, and we'll continue through the end of the presentation, if that's okay with everyone else. Next, we'll hear from Kathy about some crisis funds in the region.
wanted to mention briefly, I know we've been talking a lot about flooding and disasters in the counties, but some of our affiliates also step up when there are other disasters. In Floyd County, they had a mass shooting, and that happened in June of 2022. And 3 officers and a canine were killed during this mass shooting. And so the Floyd County Community Foundation stepped up, opened a fund for to get in donations to support those families, and they raised over $315,000 for that. And that's some of the way that they dispersed. They were very transparent. Every penny that they got in, every penny was dispersed. The majority of it, of course, went to the families of the fallen officers. We also set up four trusts for the youth that of the officers that were involved in those shootings or killed. I think one was killed, one was injured, but we set up those trusts for their education for the future, and then also help the community and the sheriff and the city police office, counties, and the county with some funding to help with those expenses and some domestic violence. And then also one of the canine had some veterinarian expenses. So you want to flip to the next slide. That's just a little bit more of how that was dispersed. That's, remains on their website. They always want to be transparent in where all that money went. And then the next one, and then also, and when Kristen when she was talking about COVID-19, also I believe it was the Upper Cumberland Community Foundation that opened that Corbin Cares. I think they did, and they did meals for the healthcare workers. If I believe that's what that fund was utilized for in that area. So there are other disasters that occur in our area. I think Zach had to jump off to his call, but there was an apartment fire that had involved several families in Perry County that we opened up a fund to support those families. And so there are other disasters that the affiliates step up during times of need in their community. In Johnson County, this most recent flood, they were not really affected in the 2022 flood, but the 2025 flood they were. And so they stepped up quickly. They had a little bit of funding in a crisis fund that they had from a long-term recovery group, I believe. And so they stepped up, started making individual grants specifically in Johnson County. Of course, those individuals could also apply to the Foundation for Appalachian Kentucky through the crisis fund, but they can also, the Johnson County Community Foundation, evaluating those grants with their health department and their emergency management department to get them some additional funding. And next slide, please. And then Pike County as well, with this most recent 2025 flood, they saw just a huge number of their businesses impacted by the flooding, and they opened their own individual grant for businesses in Pike County, and they're in the process right now of reviewing all of those applications. So that was in addition to the Invest 606 business grant. So they were able to, with some community partners, get some additional funding that was specifically for Pike County businesses that were affected. Okay.
Great.
Is that the last one for me? Yeah. So yes. We just wanted to kind of put that out there, that affiliates step up in time, as well as the overarching foundation, as well as the affiliate community foundations can step up and provide additional support in those communities. I think, is it now Brenna? Is that what we're going to, Brenna?
Yes, that's right.
Hey, Brenna, she's our Chief Philanthropy Officer at the foundation. Has been with us since October. Am I right, Brenna? I don't know. So anyway, welcome, Brenna, on a discussion on development.
Thank you, Kathy. And I'm gonna keep it pretty short because we are over time. And really, this is just an added something to the content from today to remind affiliates that you do have support at the foundation for your development work. And that I would like to be available to you to support you. And that's in conjunction with the rest of our staff. You know, your community engagement officer is your main person, and then they bring in me and they bring in communications when needed to help you implement your fundraising plans and community work. So the goal of the program overall is just of the development program at the foundation is really to increase individual giving overall to the foundation, support the annual fund, some people call it general operating, and offer resources to help the 12 affiliates execute their fundraising plans. So next slide. That can happen in a number of ways. Sharing information about upcoming opportunities like Kentucky Gives Day. All the affiliates will be getting an email very soon about that, and we register them for that through our membership with KNN. We can produce donor data reports that can really help with your fundraising initiatives in a number of ways. You know, who are your lapsed donors? Who are the donors to the foundation from your zip codes who may not be current donors to your affiliates? And can we reach out to them? Do you know any of them? So we can sort of sign you up to help steward a relationship, cultivate a relationship with those people, and attract and invite support to your affiliate. We can share resources like the Transfer of Wealth Report, which I think is really helpful. And then along with your community engagement officer and communications, we can coordinate any mass solicitations you want to do by email or print. And then I already talked about that one. So we can go to the next slide, Colby. The development program can assist you with solicitations of your donors, of prospective donors, and we'll follow your lead on that. People are more likely to give to people they already know, but sometimes the people they know do struggle with that asking part. And so just know that I can step in and help you with that part. Another way the development program supports the affiliate is through the continuing legal education events that we hold each year. Those are really important relationships to the affiliates. This year we're doing 3, one in Red River Gorge area, one in London, one in Pikeville. And we will list the affiliate in each of those areas as the host of the CLE event. These relationships with financial advisors and legal advisors do lead to gifts, whether it's someone wanting to open a new fund with you, a planned gift, or just a large gift. So that's another way that the development program supports affiliates. And then we can just provide good tips. You know, what are the kind of proven ways that development programs can be successful at the affiliate level and at the foundation level. And then the affiliate knows the community best and its people best. And so their role in all of this is to adapt all those best practices to their situation and make them work for them. And I am happy to help anytime with doing that, with that process. We can go on to the next one. I'd be happy to talk to anybody anytime as an affiliate group, as an individual. If you just want to have a conversation about development at the affiliate level, the challenges, opportunities, and how to work through them, I'm happy to do that. So get in touch anytime. And that's it.
Great. Thank you so much, Brenna. We did have planned a moment for questions, but since we're over, I'm going to go ahead and skip over that. And that just leaves this last slide here. My contact information is there at the bottom. Again, I'm Colby Lilly, Program Coordinator with Brushy Fork Leadership Institute. Feel free to reach out at that email address with any questions you might have. I just want to highlight that really grateful to be working with the foundation and other regional partners at all times and in the ways that we work together, but in particular on this issue of responsiveness and being prepared. And so the traditional route, the 3 steps are respond, recover, and then working towards resilience. And then that's an iterative process, unfortunately, with recurring weather disasters and other crises. But with the added layer or component of the really being proactive and planning, I'm so glad that that is top of mind for the foundation and other regional partners. And these are heavy topics, but it gives me hope and a positive vision for the future for the region. And so I'm very grateful for that. And then I think just to wrap up, this is the last of the 5-year strategic roadmap series. And so I want to thank everyone who has attended and joined and watched online along the way. And I will hand it back to Kristen just to close with a
Um,
statement,
Kristen
if
had
she's
to
still
jump
with
off.
us.
She had an
Okay.
11 o'clock Zoom.
Okay.
So just want to thank everyone for joining. I do think that maybe we have a new community engagement officer. It actually says, I think that she's Brenna, but I think Tammy might have joined.
Okay.
So
Hi, Tammy.
I did. I got through Brianna.
yeah. So anyway, we're glad to have her as part of the community engagement team. So you all will see her out and about at our affiliate meetings and community partner meetings. So she's been in Clayton County, and so we welcome her to the foundation team and thank everybody for joining our session today. And the topics that we have reviewed well throughout 24 and 25 on our roadmap. So thanks, Colby, for helping organize this for us every day or every month. Well, however often we did it. However, that the flood threw us off just a little bit. Our sessions were supposed to end in February, but with that flooding one, we changed it to April. So thank you, Colby, for all the work.
Yep. Well, thank you all so much. I will send out an email to the affiliates and community partners with a link to this recording. And then, of course, I'll also upload that to the foundation's YouTube
And
channel.
when they watch the recording, if they want to reach out with any questions or anything, just that would be great. I'm sure Mindy Beth, Shane,